Welcome back, Life Science learners, to our third segment of this session. In this session, we're going to continue looking at things like the human impact on the environment, as well as our carbon footprint. So we looked at what our carbon footprint is. Let's look at how we can reduce the carbon footprint and thus have some significant reduction in terms of our impact on the environment. So it's quite simple, things that you can do. Now let's look at these. So these tips essentially point to how you could reduce your carbon footprint. So carpooling is one way. So simply, if you were to get to school and if your friend was getting to school and you were able to join him or invite him over and use a single car daily for a week and then alternate, that would be one way in terms of you and his parents reducing the impact that you have in terms of the production of carbon dioxide from getting to school by driving two motor vehicles. We also know that you can go week in without disposable cups that you have at coffee shops. So if you were having coffee at a shop and if you're using disposable cups, or for that matter at any fast food franchise that uses disposable kind of packaging, those have been produced and have an impact in terms of the way we discard them off. So again, if you were to use your own equipment or utensils that you were going out and reduce the use of disposable, you would be reducing your impact on the environment. Trying to turn the lights off in an empty room, and you know that obviously with the current situation where we experience load shedding and the strain that has had on the grid, on the national grid, we can do our bits to save and to consume less energy, and by that we're actually reducing the amount of carbon dioxide that's going to be produced because humans require more energy, and so we can reduce that by simply turning off the lights. Instead of eating lunch at campus, try packing a waste-free lunch box. So you don't have to always, pack them in plastic and then throw that plastic away. You can obviously pack them in a lunch box that you obviously come back home to, that you can clean up and wash. And so by that, you're reducing the waste that's being produced that fills up our landfills, again contributing in terms of the carbon footprint that we have. Unplugging your computer every night for at least a couple months will reduce that. So if you're not using your charger, or if your computer is not being charged, disconnect the charger from that, which means that it doesn't have to be on a standby mode where it's going to be using electricity even to just be keeping the device on standby. We also know that the use of cold water to do laundry. So I hope that you're not using boiling hot water to wash your laundry, but that again means that you're now reducing the amount of energy required to heat water. So reducing the amount of hot water being used is one way in terms of us reducing energy consumption. There's easier ways of doing that in terms of reducing the temperature settings on your geyser. So that obviously by changing it back from say 65 to 60, or in summer from 60 to 55, can reduce the amount of energy that's going to be used by your heating geysers to heat up the water. Okay. Try skipping as a mechanism. So we often, want to use treadmills to keep active, or you want to go out to a shopping mall. Try skipping as a mechanism of actually getting some fitness into your body. You don't have to always use electronic equipment to actually help you gym. Try reducing your printing. Think before you print, because you know that printing requires energy. You're also using paper, so reducing our print is significant in terms of our impact. So if schools were now going online and used lots of our digital devices to be able to access worksheets and these notes, for example, then you've reduced the impact that you've had in terms of the printing of information, and then again reducing that impact. Cutting down your shower time. And so we know that you might have longer showers, but reducing the time that you spend in the shower means that you use less hot water. Again, that has an impact on the amount of water being used, but also in terms of the amount of energy that's needed to heat that water up. And reducing your bottled water. A lot of water that's actually being produced, the most significant cost of that is the production of the bottle and not necessarily the amount of water that's being produced. So reducing carrying your water in glass bottles or in bottles that you can reuse is one way in terms of reducing your carbon footprint. So that's in a nutshell things that you can do. The next thing we look at is global warming. Again, a hot topic, and excuse the word, or the pun on the word hot topic, but that's essentially what it is. It's the earth heating up. And why is this happening? Interesting. Any clues? It's because of human activity. Okay, so global warming is the unusual rapid increase in the Earth's average surface temperature over the past century, primarily due to the increased greenhouse gases released by people burning fossil fuels. As I said, again, humans are a significant impact or contributor to this phenomenon of global warming, and it all boils down to the impact that we have because of our activities such as the use of fossil fuels. Okay. How does today's warming compare to the past climate change? So it's important for us to be able to look at what the temperatures of Earth were probably a few years ago, in terms of 50 years ago, and see where we are now. And that essentially will talk to, one, the difference in the temperatures. So we know that the Earth has experienced climate change in the past without the help from human activity. But the current climatic warming is occurring most rapidly, and that's essentially because of human activity. So when we talk about the Earth heating up and this concept of global warming, it is a natural phenomenon, and historically we can see from projections in terms of the changes in the history of Earth that we've gone through periods of global warming. However, this time it's because of human activity that we've got a short period in which the temperature has increased rapidly, and that's a concern. So why do scientists think the current warming isn't natural? One, it's the Earth's history before the Industrial Revolution. The climate changed due to natural causes that was unrelated to human activity. These natural causes are still in play today, but the influence is too small, or they occur too slowly to explain the rapid warming seen in recent decades. So yes, some people choose to say, well, this global warming is a natural phenomenon and that it has to occur. However, this is not what we have seen in terms of the history of Earth. This rapid change is occurring over a short period of time, and that is a concern. So how much more will the Earth warm? Well, models predict that the world consumes even more fossil fuels today, and that the greenhouse concentration will continue to rise, and the Earth's average surface temperature will continue to rise. Based on different scenarios that have been projected, the average surface temperature could increase by 2 to 6 degrees by the end of the 21st century. Some of the warming will occur even in the future if greenhouse gases emissions are reduced, because the Earth's system has not yet fully adjusted to the environmental changes we have already made. Interesting that 2 to 6 degrees might not seem significant in terms of the impact that it might have, because we experience days when the temperature could be 26 degrees, or it could be 31 degrees, or it could be -4 degrees in some times. However, if we were to look at the global average, and that average changing by 2 degrees, either higher or lower, that's going to have a significant impact in the grand scheme of what happens on the Earth. And that is where we talk about our glaciers melting, because the temperatures that they're currently experiencing are slightly higher than that they've experienced 20, 30, 40, or even 50 years ago. And so that increase by a few degrees has made our summers warmer, it's made our winters cooler, and you find that that has had a significant impact on our weather patterns. So this is a rough projection of the changes in the annual mean of the global Earth temperature. And here you can see that there's a steady increase. And this is, you can see from the 1900s, has rapidly, or I would say exponentially increased till the year 2000. And so this is a concern. And if we were to extrapolate this further, no matter what we do now, we're going to see that this trend is going to continue. And it's important that we have rapid strategies that we incorporate to start tapering that and getting that curve down to a flatter progression. So the effects of global warming means that we now have ice caps and glaciers melting, and this has led to rising sea levels. The rise in the sea level temperature also has increased, and think of the impact that it has on aquatic organisms. There's an increase in the extreme weather conditions that we're experiencing currently. So we find that we've got we've got lots of hurricanes, we've got really warm weathers in summer, we've got extremely cold winters, we've got more rains that are heavier than we normally experience. We also have droughts that are more frequent than we would have experienced in the past. So these are the effects that we're having. We're seeing more floods, the frequency of cyclones and hurricanes becomes more prevalent, and you would have noticed a lot of these in America. The loss of biodiversity is increasing, and that's due to organisms and living organisms not being able to adapt to an increase in the global temperatures. We're also experiencing global food and water shortages because the ability of plants to withstand increase in temperatures and the evaporation of water has impacted the availability of food and water. Seawater becomes more acidic, the pH is becoming significantly lower, and this means that it's going to affect our fishes and microscopic organisms that contribute to sustaining aquatic life, biodiversity, and in turn will impact on the availability of seafood for humans. And the spread of disease has been also a factor that has increased globally because of global warming. And so these are just a few images that actually show the impact that humans have had on the environment. And it's quite scary and concerning that we have had this impact and we've let this slip by without really acting. And I think if we were to think about our actions collectively as individuals can contribute to a reduction that we have. It's not just our global partners in terms of that contribute to this mass. It's individuals taking significant steps to reduce our impact. So, we also know that there's a concept of desertification, which is again the drying of land, and that's again a spin-off from increasing global temperatures. And so desertification is going to have a significant impact on our agricultural space, on food availability for animals, and so we're going to start seeing the impact that that has had on humans over the years. As we start wrapping up, we know that the main causes of desertification would be population growth, the removal of wood, overgrazing, soil erosion, and climate change. These effects would have a significant effect on vegetation. Soil becomes more infertile, there's more erosion, and you'll see that there's increased vulnerability to natural disasters. Okay, the effects of desertification continue to also pollute our drinking water. There's an increase in famine, poverty, social conflicts, forcing mass migrations of people and animals. It's caused historical collapse of civilizations, as well as the extinction of species. And so these changes are significant. And this image is quite a moving image. And if you look at that, you can see how the landscape is changing and how this is starting to have an impact on, one, our availability of fodder and feed for animals that sustain human life, but also this concept of the land becoming inhabitable for humans and animals. And that impact is significant. So we also know that this is tailed in with deforestation. And as I wrap this session up, guys, deforestation is a significant contributor to human impact on the environment. So the more forests that we remove, there's less trees available. That means we don't have our carbon sinks that remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So collectively, humans have had a significant impact on the environment. Guys, in this session, we've spent some time looking at global warming, we've looked at carbon footprints, we've looked at desertification, we've just kind of touched on the process of deforestation. Let's look at these in the next lesson and look at how these impact on human welfare and the availability of water on Earth. So thank you for tuning in, thank you for staying tuned to me and listening in. All the best, take care, see you soon.